Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to a special live with Castlescapes and Clones. We are going to be doing Love, excuse me, Thor, Love and Thunder. We're going to be discussing it. We're going to be doing a deep dive. We're going to be going into spoilers, but we'll start off without spoilers at first. Anyway, I'm here with my cousin and co-pilot, Rich, and our friend Tom.
Hello.
Greetings.
And if you are in the chat right now, leave us a comment to let us know that you're there. That would be great. So, anyway, how's everybody doing?
I'm doing okay.
Not bad.
Yeah,
Can't complain.
good, 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 good. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into this. Hopefully, people will kind of come in. This is a new time for us. We're doing a little bit earlier, which, just we're trying to test the waters and see where, what um, time is good for people. And it's 7 o'clock on the East Coast. So let's just go ahead and start off with the initial thoughts, and then Rich, you want to lead us in the discussion?
Sure.
Okay.
Um, well, as far as no spoilery kind of initial thoughts on the movie, let's start with you, Tom.
Oh. um I guess my general review is it was okay. There were for me there were I mean again I wasn't bored. I have mixed feelings about it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Hmm.
It was entertaining. There were things that I enjoyed there in it and things that I wasn't crazy about. For me, a lot of the humor didn't stick for me versus previous Marvel films. Well, we'll just use compared to Ragnarok. In Ragnarok, there were a lot of moments where, like, I still laugh really, really hard at, and this one didn't quite do it for me, for you know, for whatever reason. But I mean, again, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. It was okay for me. That's my general review.
Gotcha. How about you, Loren?
I loved it. I mean, I loved every moment of it. I loved the humor. I loved the fact that there were darker moments, but yet, it was fairly light. I was, very, um, there's always, they always have a character that you're like, that'll never make it into the movies. And, I won't say it right now, but
Mhm.
again, they like brought in a character that I was like, what? Um, so I did, I thought that Christian Bale was great. Um, you know, I love Chris Hemsworth, and I think funnier Thor is better than dour Thor. And I really enjoyed seeing uh, Natalie Portman again. So that's my review. Oh, two tiny wings, Allie and Pete. How are
Hello,
you? We're
welcome.
just giving our initial thoughts right now.
Yeah, this is the no spoiler zone for now.
Yeah.
We'll give
I
it.
know.
We'll give a big disclaimer.
I know
Yeah.
that they have seen it, so
Okay.
they've seen it
Cool.
twice,
Whoa.
which I'm
Wow.
like, man. I need to get myself to the theater again
Nice.
to watch it. So anyway, yeah. I was just saying that I love the film.
Yeah, similar to Tom, I walked out of that theater not exactly sure how I felt. Well,
Yeah.
I guess not similar to Tom, but like, and I'll get into it a little bit later. But there's a specific plot point that kind of hits me hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I came out of there with mixed feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've mulled it over in my head, and at the heart of that story, it's basically a love story. It's a rom-com,
Mm-hmm.
and this
Yeah.
is exactly what Taika set out to do: is do what is the one thing that Thor fans, I would guess more MCU Thor fans might not want to see, and that's Thor in love.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Tom, you mentioned the comedy and stuff. I re-looked at everything. I wasn't sure if it hit through the lens of a romantic comedy with two characters who are awkward about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of it, the cringy kind of humor from those two characters, I re-looked at it going like, that's exactly because they're not in. They don't know what to do. They don't know what's going. Like they don't know how to act around each other, right? So it gets a little bit goofy in that respect.
Yeah.
But I think between all three of us, I think I'm in the middle
Well,
of that
I
range.
mean, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of things I loved about it.
Right.
Like what LJ just said. Like Christian Bale as Gore was amazing. Like he was for me the standout personally. But yeah, I just again, it's not my least favorite. I know everyone's comparing to Phase 4, all the other stuff that's come out, and even everything Marvel, which is just getting harder and harder to do. It's not my least favorite by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I will see it again probably when it comes out on Disney Plus, in like a month or however long it'll be, maybe 2 months.
Probably, I'm gonna guess October.
Really? You think so? I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that they're gonna put it on Blu-ray next month, and then September it'll be out.
It depends on how long the legs are on this movie.
True. Although Multiverse of Madness did really well, and it's already out on.
That's true. I mean, I will see. I will watch it again because there were plenty of things in there I really enjoyed. I know when we afterwards we went to eat and we like you and I had, like I told you, like I had a similar, not exactly, it's not a direct comparison, but a similar emotional reaction when we got out of seeing The Rise of Skywalker a few years ago. How we just kind of left like like we weren't quite sure how we felt. I mean, oh yeah, I was about to say what you just said in the comments. There's been plenty of movies where I wasn't crazy about them at first, but through rewatches, I've grown to love them more. So I won't be surprised if, after I see it again, that I'll probably like it more. Because that's happened before, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, I think.
I mean, this is why I say when I
hold on, I'm just really quickly, because it kind of ties into what Tom was saying. Pete Nally said that they saw They liked it much better the second time,
Yeah.
and they were surprised at how much more that they liked
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. Like, I looked at it when I first saw it through a different kind of prism, but after I mulled it over and I thought about this whole story, that's when I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get what this movie was.
it. Hmm.
And that's kind of why I liked it more after I thought about it, which probably means if I see it again, I'll probably like it better.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It's funny, like the Rise of Skywalker kind of comparison. When you were saying that just now, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not fair to say it's Rise of Skywalker.
You know what?
It's more to me like Solo. When I
Yeah.
walked out of Solo, I also
Oh.
was saying similar. I'm like, okay, we got a Han Solo story. I didn't
Yeah.
hate it. I didn't love it. Whereas Skywalker, when I walked out, we both like.
Yeah, it was.
I think we kind of decided.
There was
Yeah.
something where I just hated one part of it, and I didn't walk out of Solo. That it was more like, okay,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Rise of
That
Skywalker
makes
was
more
all over the
sense.
place.
Yeah. This at least I know I said this when the three of us were eating
Hmm.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Is that I do really appreciate and I'm not making a direct comparison here, how these last two Marvel movies are really different than anything we've gotten in the past.
Oh yeah.
And I do appreciate that both directors, Taika Waititi and Sam Raimi, got to really have a lot of creative freedom for making the kind of films they wanted to make. Sam Raimi wanted to make a little, a darker Marvel story with horror elements, and we got that. And
Hmm.
Taika Waititi wanted to make a rom-com, but with Thor,
Hmm.
and completing that story. And I like that element. I like that. It's like, no, we're not going to follow the usual formula we've been doing, which for the most part has worked. But I like that we're getting different stuff now,
Yeah.
especially in this phase. Like, pretty much everything we've gotten in phase 4 has been wildly different than anything we've gotten in the previous 3 phases. And I like that a lot. It just makes me look forward to more stuff in the future.
Yeah.
And I think it helps personally. Oh, hello.
Oh, we got Cherie. How are you?
hello.
Thanks for coming.
Um, that being said, let's move into the deep dive into the movie. So,
Okay.
for everyone who's watching,
Yeah.
we are going to go into spoiler territory for Thor: Love and Thunder. So, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Go watch it and come back for the replay. It'll be on our channel.
Or if you don't care.
Or if you don't care.
Yeah. Which I don't get.
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't.
Some people are like that.
There's. Oh, I spelled it thunder wrong. Hold on.
Thundery? Thunder
I'm trying to do many things at once. There you go. So there's our spoiler. This is where we're going.
Okay.
So obviously the three of us kind of are on a different. If there's a spectrum, we're kind of, everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but like going through a bunch of sites and you just seeing what people say online, there is a divide on this. There's a really big camp of either they thought it was too silly, too off the walls, and too lovey. And then there's people who just really, really, really love it because of the same things.
Yeah, like me.
Right. Like think about like jokes and the cringiness of some things. In the beginning, I was like, okay, maybe some of these jokes fall a little flat or there are too many. But then again, and I think I said this after the movie ended. I'm like, it's a comic book. Like, this is a comic book, and people got to remember these come from comic books. And Marvel, like, sure, when we start off with Iron Man, right, it's grounded, but as phases have gone on, it's gotten way more out there, and I think that's in preparation for just Marvel. Like the Marvel comic universe runs a gamut of, like, dark to almost ridiculous. You know what I mean? And because of that, we're gonna be able to get characters in movies, live action movies that, like Loren said, that we never thought we'd ever see.
Yes.
A couple years ago, we never could have fathomed Groot or Rocket on screen. Who in the right man is going to do that movie? Because no one knows who those people are. And here we are.
Yeah. And they got the best guy to do it.
Yeah, there's so much that opens, the Marvel universe going through. But, like, what did you guys think of just Taika's brand of humor, and does it fit, or did he go too far on some of these things?
I mean, I love Taika's humor. I mean, one of my favorite shows on television right now is What We Do in the Shadows, which is just like comedy fest. You know what I mean? And it's just a different brand of humor that I think, to me, just I could see things like the Bow God or some of those things being, a little bit like out there, but at the same time, I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And again, like you said, it's comic books, and some things you just have to suspend disbelief. We have to get over thinking that this is a word for word translation of the comic books. They got the spirit of Thor now. He has that kind of bravado, and I, yeah. I mean, like to see him kind of mooning over a girl seems jarring, but they've been doing this over the last several movies. I mean, they did Ragnarok. We saw, a extended thing about him mooning over Jane in Endgame, and nobody decried that. So I don't know why they are decrying him being kind of love struck in a rom com.
I was okay with the. I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, a lot of the only humor that didn't land for me were was the humor that where it was an otherwise serious or dark moment, and then there's a joke in there. Like that's the only real issue. Like if I had to say it, the issue with the humor that I had was just a term of timing. Because there were plenty of moments when I did laugh, but other things like, I mean, spoilers, near the end when when Thor, Mighty Thor / Jane and Valkyrie are captured by Gore, and Gore, and he's kind of having this monologue with them, and then Thor says something like, "You need a dentist." So that kind of felt weird to me because it was an otherwise kind of intense moment, and then he just puts out this little joke, like things like that. And this has been a kind of a common thing with the Marvel movies, where an otherwise serious or hard, tone, all of a sudden there's a little joke in there, and it feels that always felt off to me. Even
Mm.
even in my favorite Marvel movies have had that. Like there's a lot of that in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, especially especially at the end where we're experiencing these emotions and then it's undercut with the joke where it just kind of takes you out of that awkwardly for me. I mean, I'm just saying for me personally, it always feels weird whenever an otherwise serious situation and then there's this awkward kind of joke in there thrown in. But there were plenty of things that I loved other aside from that, humor wise, that I do think worked to be
I
more
think
specific.
for I think for me, that kind of that kind of thing that they do, where there is a serious moment and then it's broken up by a little piece of humor, it's kind of like they're building into the character that they are, there's nothing going to stop them. Like
Mhm.
Spider Man. Spider Man is always quipping,
Yeah.
and things like that. And it's just to show that they are, bigger than life, and whatever this person is saying is not worth the time to them. You know what I mean?
That's an
The
interesting
monologue
perspective.
is not worth the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I mean, like you can take Thor, who's in most of the movies that he's in. There's that bit of humor to him, like this
Mhm.
lightheartedness, even though
Yeah.
he's a god of thunder. So anytime he jokes, I to me, like, it's funny that line about you gotta see the dentist or whatever. Like, I was fine with it because it
Hmm.
seems very much something Thor would say in that point.
Yeah.
As someone who in kind of like dark moments, like, but like really heavy moments, I've been known to make stupid jokes because I just feel like I can feel when the
It's getting
room is
too.
getting
Yeah.
like giving into little, everything from despair to hopelessness to just like getting down on
Right.
things. I will try and crack a joke just to lighten up things. Um, so with Thor, I feel like it works. Where it
Mhm.
doesn't work is something like Batman. Just
Something like what did you
Yeah.
say?
the Snyder verse.
Oh, I
There
know.
was that whole thing where like there's no humor and whatever, and then they tried to shoehorn it in
Yeah.
with Batman. And I was like, every time Batman made a joke, that's when I cringed because that is not who that character is. Unless they were doing Adam West Batman from the 60s, sure. But they never established that Ben Affleck was quippy. And that's when it doesn't work. So it wasn't established.
Yes.
Right.
Welcome, John, to the chat. He says that humor is how a lot of people like me deal with the grief of pain.
Yes,
So
definitely.
true.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying there were a couple moments when it felt because I'm thinking about that. An example in Infinity War in the very beginning when all of pretty much half of the Asgardians on that ship were killed by Thanos and his minions, and Thanos is in the middle of his kind of monologue about losing, desperate to be right, and all that, and then Thor just says, "You talk too much." So I guess for that specific, I mean, there's some bias because I love Christian Bale so much. I just wanted more of Gore. So, but I mean, yeah, because depending on the situation, it does because I could be like that too. The only difference is my humor can be dark and sarcastic, so and not so much quippy. So it really comes down to personal preference, I suppose. But there were plenty of things, humor in general, in Love and Thunder that I enjoyed. But there were
Mhm.
some things where I was just kind of sitting there like, didn't work for me. But then again, as we know, humor, as with most things, is subjective.
Yeah.
But I mean, I again, I'm going to repeat myself from what I said earlier. I won't be surprised if I end up enjoying it more through rewatches as time goes on.
Yeah.
But the humor even felt it was different compared to Ragnarok, which I know was intentional.
Mhm.
But oh, our new comment. I was thinking that after we after some time over the weekend of Christian's performance.
Yeah. So they say
We're
his performance reminded us at times, at points, very much of Heath Ledger's Joker. It was very, very good. I'd love to know who came up with him dragging the sword. Hmm. Huh. Yeah, that's a good question. Whether that was. In, I'm trying to think of the comic book, and I don't remember that being a key thing. But yeah, that's a good question. What do you
I,
guys think?
I mean, like I from all the kind of behind the scenes stuff I've seen so far, with Taika, and the rest of the cast, um, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that was Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I wouldn't either.
Yeah. Um, you can look at it as that sword is almost like because when you see him, he's not the strongest looking person.
No, not at all.
Obviously, his planet has been decimated by like no rain or whatever. It looks very dry,
Mhm.
um, and so he's kind of frail at that point. And the sword, while it gives him strength, I think it also is kind of a burden on
Mhm.
him, right? And
Yes,
I think between
like the
Christian and
cross.
Taika, they would have looked at it as like this sword isn't something that's like a normal sword. Like there's some power behind it,
Mhm.
and not exactly you know good. So there's like it's almost like a heavy burden to kind of carry around. Um,
Mhm.
and so obviously there's action scenes where he's going toe to toe with Thor, but I can also chalk that up to like Yoda. Like Yoda walks on a cane and very slowly, but when he needs to, he summons the energy he needs,
Yeah.
right? And I think when necessary, that sword provides Gore with what he needs in the moment. So when he's just normal, I don't think it's like spending energy on him because he doesn't need it
Yeah,
until the moment that he does. So I think that's probably part of that process between Taika and Christian, I would say.
Pete Downey say he did it with Stormbreaker too. It was
Yeah.
a neat, subtle character touch. I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, like these are weapons of power, but also sentience, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's almost like an entity within these weapons,
Yeah.
and so I'm sure while it's a tool, I think it's like these two, like all these weapons, kind of almost also use the wielder as much as the wielder uses the weapon.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so let's go to like the story. Obviously, this is one of the shorter Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what did you guys think of the overall story, and did Taika and cast land what they were going
Mhm.
for?
I mean, again, I like the story, and I'll tell you, it's not just because I liked it, but I also thought they did a faithful job without totally doing it one for one in the comics. They got the Jane Foster story down well, and they got the Gore story down, and that's what I wanted to see in this movie was that they paid, um, tribute to those two things well. And I was glad that they kind of still went with the root of Jane having cancer and gore. It's interesting because in the comics, the Necro Sword is tied to the symbiotes that
Hmm.
Venom is and Carnage and all that, but because Sony has the rights to that, it's just this all powerful sword in the movie. But I still think it works.
Yeah, I think what the MCU does is that it doesn't really go one to one with comics,
Hmm.
but they take the essence of what's there
Exactly.
and utilize it in a way that makes sense for the universe. Because like prime example is Civil War. Civil War in the comics is an epic
Very different.
storyline, with thousands of characters involved, right? And in MCU, they don't have 1,000 superheroes and villains running around the world that we
Hmm.
know. And so they had to adapt it in a way that made sense to the MCU, but they took the general idea and put it in the MCU. Thor isn't exactly one to one with his comic version. I don't think any of them really are like one to one, but the essence of the characters are all common.
Hmm.
Yeah, the general story I actually thought was pretty strong. Uh, you know, um, Gore and his motivations. Again, like I feel like I think a lot of people would agree like the strongest villains are the ones you like. I kind of see where they're coming from. Thanos, Killmonger, Gore, even Vulture. Like the strongest characters are ones who you kind of understand their point of view,
Yeah.
and Gore especially. Just like that him, his daughter, they're on this planet, and everything that planet's going through. They just want some, just praying to the gods, just asking for mercy, and to find out that the god he was praying to was just like, we just want to be worshipped. We don't really care about you, really.
Hmm.
We just kind of want to rub our own ego. And him being angry at that, and that resulting in the Necrosword choosing him,
Hmm.
uh, and his motivations completely. I get that. I Which just makes that character that much more compelling for me personally. The whole thing with Thor struggling with everything that happened with Jane before, before and during, him kind of in the middle. I know we don't get the Guardians that much, but we get enough to understand that he formed this connection with them. And I did love that they were, because I know at the end of Endgame we just wanted to see what that would be like, and I
Hmm.
feel like we got enough of that to understand that he formed this kind of little family with them despite everything he was going through emotionally. That how Valkyrie handled New Asgard, I thought was great. Like how you mentioned uh, Thor's connection with both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. Um, I like that we got more of a sense that, like you said, Rich, that these weapons are almost sentient beings even in and of themselves, because we didn't really get that in the previous ones. We kind of, but not like this, where you can kind of tell they have their own consciousness, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, in general, I thought the story itself was great. It was just kind of, there were moments I wasn't crazy about, but in general, the story I thought worked for what this movie was meant to be.
Hmm.
Personally,
Yeah, I overall I thought the story was great. The
mm-hmm.
only thing I would say is that I wish and we'll move into kind of like this goes in kind of gore territory, and
Mhm.
his character and Christian Bale's performance, which I think we all can agree was he's great
Yeah.
as his character. I think we all also agree that we wish there was a little bit more of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
True.
Because there's some plot points in his plan that I wish was a little more fleshed out or a little more clear. Like where did eternity come from? Like where all of a sudden was this need to do this? We just kind of get it in exposition-y ish kind of thing. Like there's the moment of the movie that I think fell flat to me and still kind of does when I think about it is them going to see the gods, to see Zeus. That whole kind of sequence didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Except for a vehicle to drive them to the notion that Gore is seeking eternity to make a wish. Right? Because they go to that place to seek the help of the gods.
Yeah.
But then he kills the main god. Like, it seems very hypocritical. And even though Zeus is alive, Thor didn't know that. Because throughout the rest of the movie, he's like, I killed Zeus. Mm-hmm. So he didn't know he was alive. He literally killed the people, like the main person he's trying to get help from, to stop the god butcher.
Yeah.
Right.
He ended up doing some of the work for him.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's weird. Like I get it that it's to further kind of push this whole thing where the gods aren't these entities that are actually helpful.
Yeah,
like
they're driven by hubris.
Yeah.
As someone who was raised Catholic who does not believe in any of that stuff anymore, it just, for me, it just puts in the questions like, yeah, all these things, but yet, it's almost a contradictory to what people keep pushing about religions and whatnot. If they're honest, like, yeah, God doesn't care. Like, he's done so many things that are terrible. He's provided so many things that are terrible, along with something good, but there's like no rhyme or reason to it to me. So I'm like, why am I going to waste my energy and trying to figure out this thing when I don't need it personally? Like, I'm content in life the way it is and how I see things. My faith is not in an like invisible dude and someone who looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's just in my view of how people are and how this world is. And does it falter at points? Sure. Right now, US is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I have faith in myself and the people that I surround myself with. That doesn't say that religion sucks. Like, I get it. People need what they need. But I think this whole overall story, is kind of what Taika does, He makes a comedy about vampires living in a flat in New Zealand. He makes pirates humans. In his way. Like Jojo Rabbit is a very dark story.
Yeah. I was about to mention
a lot of humor,
but it's also a lot of humor. Yeah. I think with that sequence, I think that we're trying to do a couple of things here. One, not in the Jane Foster storyline where she eventually kills Gore in the comics. There's another story in which Thor tries to put together like a bunch of gods to help combat Gore. And I think that was it. But then, he was able to succeed in that. But I think it's just really more to show that whereas the original Thor movie kind of made it seem like the realms are from outer space and this is like a space thing and science and magic are the same thing. I think now they're trying to say we're going full throttle. It's all the gods. They're gods in this world, and it's not a space thing. It's a realm thing from what I've been listening to lately.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get it. It's just
Yeah,
I just felt it was kind of weird part of the story. That
I
looked
I
cool,
loved it. I loved it though.
and I'm sure that once it comes out on like Blu-ray and Disney Plus, there'll be a lot
Yeah.
of pausing, zooming in, especially when it's in 4K.
Yeah.
I want some. I'm sure someone's gonna break it down. Like, here are all the gods that are in this
Hmm.
scene. And I'm like the MCU in itself is leaning towards this stuff. For the Eternals, they were the basis of a lot of religions on Earth, but this ended up being uh, robots made by the Celestials,
Yeah.
Yeah.
who were in that city.
Yeah.
Which was cool. Yeah.
They had to stand outside.
Yeah, they were way too big. They couldn't
Like,
fit.
like,
I was I know I mentioned this after we saw the movie, but I'm wondering if anyone else felt the same way I did, or at least I had a little bit of an expectation. I mean, like you said, for all we know, there were some there. We just need to like pause it and look.
Hmm.
But there was a small part of me that I was like, I wonder if there's going to be if any of the Egyptian gods are in that crowd just sitting, like any of the ones that were mentioned in Moon Knight.
Well, he did mention Raw.
he did mention Raw.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think we would have to pause. I'm sure there's got to
Yeah.
be something. There was a dragon that looked like the dragon for Shang-Chi, but was golden.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what a lot of
I
people
remember
are
that.
saying.
Yeah.
They did mention the carpenter god, which a lot of people are like, is that Jesus?
Jesus, yeah.
Which,
Yeah,
if
because
he popped up, awesome.
that would have been great if he's just there. Because
That's
I
how
mean,
that's how you
'cause-
bring Ewan McGregor into the MCU.
yeah, just bring you, because that'd be great. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't this is just based off of my Wikipedia and YouTube research on Marvel. Isn't Yahweh, as in God, part of this, and as well as the devil, and in the comics? I mean,
Yes, they
Devil,
do have.
yes.
Well, the devil definitely for sure.
Yeah.
I think they have, kind of brought in God, but God is more of a like he's a being, but probably the most omnipotent. Like the Asgardians and the Olympians and such are
Mhm.
not anywhere near to what God is in the comic books.
Okay, I was
So
just curious. Like, I
yeah,
was like, did I remember that right? I think I read somewhere that Yahweh, at least in that universe, does
hmm
exist, comic wise, which I find interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, Gore. Obviously, if you've looked at the comic books, he does look different.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a very similar look to Voldemort in the movies.
Mhm.
But I also think, like, if they kept his comic look, it would have been CGE.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of like most of Christian Bale, it probably wouldn't have been Christian Bale if they went that route. I was happy because I looked up what he looked. I remember when they first showed off Gore in one of the trailers, like people were like, why doesn't he look like he does in the comics? I remember looking it up what he looked like. I mean, he looked cool in the comics, but I thought he looked really, really cool, and he was pretty menacing in this, personally.
Yeah, it was jarring to me at
Yeah.
first. Like
Oh yeah.
in the when I saw him in the trailer, I thought it was jarring.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I watched the movie, like what Pete and Allie were talking about with the sword and dragging the sword, and there's a frailty to him that I really enjoyed, and I thought that was a really kind of cool thing.
Yeah, he's creepy. Like the scene
Mhm.
in the cage where he just like shows up in front of the
Yeah.
kids.
Oh yeah,
I was like, oh,
yeah.
it's very like Nosferatu kind of a look, and I think they CG'd his face. I don't think we've gotten the same performance
Yeah.
out of Christian Bale, because like all of his scenes are both menacing and yet you're sort of going like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I just wish there was just a little bit more of him and him coming. There's a relationship between him and the sword, and if all this information is coming to him from the sword, I wish there was a little bit more establishment of that. We get those calling to him and all those kind of things, but like his relationship to that sword, I think needed to be explored just a little bit more so we get it. The way that Thor and Jane have kind of their connection to Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. So that's the only thing I think it was missing. Like, yes, this is a short movie, but I feel like it's a little bit more on Gore and his.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Even if it was like an extra 5 minutes, like something,
something. Just another scene with him with the sword, like maybe like, not, obviously we see him kill that one first god, but maybe like doing like, obviously it would have been like CG expensive and whatever, that huge god in that snowy area where Sif was. If we saw him just going there and compelled to go there and kill that thing, maybe not the fight, but like just him showing up, and then we see the aftermath once they get to that planet. Something that shows us, instead of just like, the blue guys were the ones who kind of told the audience that there is someone killing gods out there. So I wish we had a little bit more of that beforehand.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see it rather than, oh yeah, he did this.
Yeah, I'm okay montage, with but like maybe another one. Like how he gets off planet, how he goes and finds a god, and then even just a little snippet of him learning about eternity. Anything else you want to say about Gore?
Aside from more, it would have been cool if we got a bit more of him. He was great. I mean, I know a lot of people feel this way. Once we found out that Christian Bale was playing the villain in this, like, we are like, well, this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So and he was. So he's I've been a fan of his like since
Newsies.
No, since his first ever performance.
Was it Empire of the Sun?
Yeah.
Was that his first like movie?
That was his first. He's a child actor who has been amazing like literally his entire life. So
I forget how, like, is he English?
I think so. Like I like with like in like interviews,
I'm trying to paste his accent.
Yeah, people here. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I always forget exactly where he's
from.
But
I forget he's not American.
Yeah, everyone's always surprised.
Christian Bale?
Yeah.
I think he's Welsh.
He's from the UK. He's English.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone always like, wow, he has an accent. Yeah, Newsies, yeah.
Sometimes I forget.
Yes, for Newsies comment.
Look, if you know my sister and my cousin Eileen, they for a time in their like late teens, early 20s, even now, they will like they're like super Newsies fans, and they would sing like. Not only would they sing like the songs when I'm around, they have their parts. So they. And so I for the longest time I knew all the songs from that movie before I really saw the movie, because they would just nonstop sing it. So it's almost like I became a fan of that movie by osmosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I had
That's
to.
great.
Whenever I think of Christian Bale, my first thought is he's from Newsies. Even though I knew him from Empire of the Sun and what's that one called? The really weird one.
Yeah.
Which one? Wait, the really weird
Well,
one.
he's like
been
a
in lot of weird movies.
killer-ish, but not really.
Oh, American
Uh,
Psycho.
Yeah, American Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I watched him first,
Mhm.
but I'll always think of him from
Newsies.
My middle school self was obsessed.
Yeah, I understand that.
So let's move on to a Valkyrie and her part in this. You know, it's a character that I love from Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I loved her story, and I get excited that she became king of Asgard. How do you feel she was utilized in this movie?
I mean, I think that she could have probably been better utilized. Like, I think that they had her because she was in Thor Ragnarok, and I mean, like, I liked seeing her in the movie, and I think that there were some good moments with Gore and how, when they were caught in there and Thor had to, like, call in the thunder. Um, I I thought that it was good. I mean, like, she could have been in it, and she could, or they could have, like, added more. If I had a choice of whether she should be in the movie or if they could have more time with Gore, I would have gone with the Gore route.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, as much as I love her character,
Yeah.
she didn't really add that much compared to the other characters. I mean, again, it was great seeing her, but if we had to choose between seeing Valkyrie or seeing more of Gore, I would have picked more Gore.
Yeah.
False.
Yeah.
I would have picked her over Korg.
Oh yeah.
No,
Between her and Korg, no Gore.
But yeah, I'm saying I would prefer the trio instead of the quartet. Like, I think Korg.
Yeah.
As funny as he's just kind of like, he's in the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, he's the dancer.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really serve a purpose besides just being on stage dancing and making the one-liners. And I get it, it's Taika, so he's going to put himself in it. But, like, I would have preferred that the three of them were the team instead of Korg, especially since, like, after Zeus, all he was a face on a table.
Yeah.
Or to tie it back to Voldemort. Voldemort is back.
They could have definitely had him in the movie. Like, I liked the part where he was, telling the story, the legend of, Thor.
Right.
And but I didn't think. I agree with you. He didn't necessarily need to go with them on the journey.
Yeah. Yet to me, for me personally, Korg felt different in this compared to his last two appearances. Like, his humor was different too. Like, he was more.
I blame Nebula.
He was more goofy in this, and like the humor, Korg's humor in Endgame. I know we don't get that much of him, and Ragnarok felt more. Like, again, this is personal preference. I like Taika's more New Zealandy, dry, sarcastic humor, like Korg's humor in Ragnarok and in Endgame. But this didn't feel like that to me. It felt like, he's just being the goofy, quip character. It felt different to me. Like, I was, I'll be honest, I was more annoyed with him in this one. Like,
that's why I want to say, like, if it was Korg, but I feel like he didn't need to be part of the quest. if he was the only person handling the goats, sure, like
Yeah.
that was his role. But
The
I feel
goats
like
I loved.
because he gave in exposition Valkyrie's projection, like the whole
Mhm.
story about his lost love in the battle with Hela,
Mhm.
under the like all in one sentence. That was Valkyrie's arc. And
Yeah.
like, I would rather have seen that play out more. Like this
Yeah.
person who in Ragnarok turned away from the Valkyries because of what happened and all that,
Mhm.
and then having her in a situation where Thor and Jane are almost kind of rekindling something, but fighting it and whatever, and and her thoughts on that would be more for her story and the overall story of this movie than
Mhm.
Corey taking up time making one-liners and then just giving Valkyrie's story in a little monologue.
Mhm.
That's what I feel. Um, or and there's another character I was happy to see, but I wish they utilized her more is Lady Sif.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I love. I love the fact that they put her in the comic appropriate outfit.
Yes,
That was
they
that's
gave her
from the
that
comic.
red. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think that it's interesting that they gave her the all night because in the comics and in mythology itself, Sif is the sister of Heimdall.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's how she is in this movie, but they kind of implied it a little bit because
Hmm.
she was training what's his name?
Axel.
Yeah, Axel. And so I thought that was kind of a nice little, you know, thing that maybe she is the sister of Heimdall.
Mhm.
Could be. But yeah, like I get why she wasn't in Ragnarok, and I'm glad
Yeah.
she wasn't in Ragnarok because I don't know if Taika would have killed her too.
Yeah, I know.
That's the only
I
thing.
know.
That's the thing about
That was
Ragnarok
my
that I do not like is
yes,
the
exactly.
treatment of Warriors 3, just to get them out of the way.
Yeah, I just I have a very like hard feelings about about that.
Yeah, that's the one part of Ragnarok that I just do not like the fact of how they
Mhm.
treated those three characters, and that's why I was glad that James Alexander was busy making Blind Spot during that time
Mhm.
because then I probably would have killed her too.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she's in it, but I wish she would.
Yeah.
There's again more. Like I hope, we'll get to at the end, but I hope that is not the last we see of her.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because every time she's shown up, I'm like, I kind of want to see more of her.
Yeah, and she's shown up as Lady Sif in other things. Like she
Yeah.
was in Agents of Shield, she was in Loki. So it's not like she'll be like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But come on, man. This was the other alternative to Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I just want to see her do more.
Mhm.
Yeah, have her team up with Valkyrie.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be a cool one. That would be a cool movie.
Like, reform the Valkyries.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give her a Wakandan arm, because why not? She's
So,
armless now.
Isn't it?
Oh yeah. There you
Is
go.
it in Thor somewhere that he loses his arm too?
Yes.
And then they replace it
Yes.
with that robot guys from the first movie, like that. I forget what that thing's called. That metal monster.
Yeah, that metal
The
thing.
destroyer.
Destroyer.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
took his arm.
I don't. Yeah, I think you're right. Because I can't remember what arm they put on him, but yeah.
It was her. For her, it was her left arm.
Yeah, I think it was her. I think
her left
it was her
arm. Yeah.
left. I think. Yeah.
So I mean, I could give her the winter shoulder. Arm.
Yeah.
treatment.
Mhm.
I'm sure, like if it needs to be, they're like, let's go to Wakanda.
Yeah.
Sure, it'd be like,
Mhm.
here you go.
Yeah.
We just keep a room full of arms. You're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question about Asgardians. Like, this is a whole realm of people that are down to like a small village,
Mhm.
right? Like, do we like what's like? And it's as Korg kind of put it in Ragnarok, New Asgard is kind of like the haven for like lost, because like when you look at the makeup of Asgard now, it's a mix
Yeah.
of Asgardians and other people. There's that gold people there.
Yeah.
Like this wolf looking kid.
Yeah.
So it's like Asgard's like this haven for like aliens on Earth, right?
Mhm.
But do you think, like in these movies, especially Love and Thunder, like is Asgard just a backdrop now, or does it actually mean something that Thor's Asgardian and whatnot?
Mm.
I mean, like, has it become just and this is again kind of back to how Warriors 3 were treated. Like, is it now they're just backdrop and not an identity for Thor?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. That's the one thing that I haven't loved the treatment of the Asgardians under Taika Waititi. Uh, like, I feel like both in Ragnarok and this movie, they were like these kind of simpering people that, like that. Uh, to me, the Asgardians are warriors,
Yeah.
and they are not afraid of anything. And even the common folk are not afraid of anything. You know what I mean? Or the not the common folk, but just like even the aristocracy,
Yeah.
still warriors. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's been my kind of issue with it. I would have loved for them to have done more of what they did in the comics, where New Asgard, was hovering over a town in Oklahoma, Broxton, Oklahoma. Because
Yeah, I remember
it would
looking that
still
up.
have
Like,
been
oh, that's
Asgard.
interesting.
Yeah, it would have still been Asgard,
Right.
So yeah, that was my only thing, is that the Asgardians just seem so weak compared to what
Right.
they
Like,
should
especially
be.
like I'm playing, and I won't pretend to say that this is like a total factual representation of Viking uh, life, but like I'm playing a game where I'm playing a Viking.
Mm.
And while yes, there are like your shopkeepers and your bakers and whatever, there's still a strong sense of everyone's like a warrior. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like if you want to compare it to anything else, like in movies, like Klingons, like there's a warrior almost society.
Exactly.
And in the scene in Love and Thunder where they're all fighting the shadow monsters in the Asgard, like they're all supposed to be somewhat
Capable.
good at fighting.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the adults. And we just don't get, like, we kind of get it, but it's almost like an afterthought. Like Sif was an afterthought, the Warriors 3 is an afterthought, and that's one of the
Right.
things where I'm like, there's even a joke about it in Thor, Love and Thunder, where one, like, if you hear in the background, it's like half of our soldiers are always dead.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take that, it's true. Like every single time there's a battle, like half the soldiers die, then half the soldiers die, and then they get off of Asgard, and then Thanos finds them, half the soldiers are dead.
Yeah.
To the point where like there's just a handful now, right? And it's like, this is a race of space Vikings, and they should be a little bit more prominent. I get it, like fit all that people into that little place in Norway or wherever they are, But
Yeah.
like they should be almost like what Wakanda is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But don't you watch it?
I'm on a.
Oh, I know.
Ooh, that's cool though. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll
That's
be right
cool.
back.
Thank you.
I'll be right back in like 30 seconds. Go ahead and
Okay.
continue.
Nope. What now?
Sorry.
Wait.
I got a new walker, and it's
Oh.
cool.
Nice.
It's very cool. Thank you. Anyway, sorry. If anybody has any in the chat, any other questions, we're going to be going into question and answer in a little bit. So let's just put them in the chat.
Yeah.
Why don't we just go ahead and then Tom can join us.
Right.
Sorry.
So like I want
What?
all I can hear is the squeaking of your door.
I'm telling you, every time I tell them, do not come in, I'm recording. They always come in.
Right. I wasn't wait for Tom, but like so let's talk about Thor.
Yeah.
Himself. How did you like so like my question, especially for you, Loren, because you're like Thor is one of your main favorite characters,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about his kind of storyline and the way he is in the MCU versus what you've known him as all these years
Yeah.
from comics? Like, what's your thoughts on him and where he is right now?
See, he's always transformed. Like, the thing is that people don't realize is that a lot of these characters transform over the years. I mean, when I was younger, there was you had obviously an animated show where it's like, cross the rainbow bridge of Asgard, so very like bright and colorful, and he's always been a bright and colorful person to me. My favorite times are when he is more of a, they show more of his bravado and his being a larger than life character, which is what they show in this movie. He's always been a character that's had a little more humor than other characters. So for me, they get him right. They've gotten him right, honestly, in all of the iterations. Even though some are more popular than others, I just happen to like this version of Thor the best.
Nice, yeah, because I wasn't like I obviously growing up I know who Thor is. I just never read in the comic book, so my interpretation of Thor has always been that he's just like I didn't know anything about his personality. I'm just like, all right, he's like a Viking guy.
Yeah,
Viking guy.
So it's interesting. Like that's why I'm like, I like the MCU Thor, and the kind of like because like he reminds me of if you've ever watched the Batman Brave and the Bold.
yes,
He reminds me of that version's Aquaman.
Yes, that's
like
exactly
the King of Atlantis. He's like there's a bravado. He's boisterous. He's kind of larger than life. He's all about like I like some of the lines in this movie where he's like classic Thor story, classic Thor adventure, and that's basically what Aquaman is in the Brave and the Bold cartoon.
Yes.
So I'm like, I wonder. Like that's why I was like, I wonder if that's the way he is in the comics. Yeah, because I like this version. I think the only thing I would want from his earlier versions is like in the first Thor movie, the way he speaks is still very, I don't know what that is, but like not Shakespearean, but like he's got a little bit more less American sounding. and uses words that we would never use here. Like he still speaks like not royal. I don't know how to describe it, but like he's got a really good Spanish speech.
Yeah, I remember I've known people that had issues with that, but that always made sense to me. Like, of course, he would talk like that at first, but I feel like after like being on Earth for a while, joining the Avengers, being around, different people, his lingo would change. Even his accent kind of goes away a little bit. I'm fine with. I mean, personally, and this is just coming from seeing his character only in the Marvel movies, like, just as a unique perspective, not knowing the comic versions of these characters. I always just attributed those things, like, the lingo he uses, some of the phrases he uses, were just like him being around humans, essentially, most of which were American.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get that. I just wish some of it would still pop up now and then.
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah.
I mean,
because
verily.
Yeah, like those kind of things. Like I've been in California long enough where I use a lot of Californian, like Southern California terms and stuff. However, I still do have some of my Chicago-ness.
Right.
Right. Like I don't say soda, I say pop.
You say pop.
Yeah.
It's like highways. Sometimes I have to catch myself in how I say the 5, because in Chicago we don't put the in front of highways.
Yes.
Here's the highway. It's 90.
Yeah.
Like so when I go back home, it comes back and stuff like that. So like that's why I wish we got a little bit more of that from Thor, is that some of that old kind of Asgardian speak would creep back in every now and then. Sort of like when Wanda kind of reverts to her Sokovian accent now and then.
Yeah, everyone.
Right. But how do you feel about Thor in the MCU and his journey from Thor through the Avengers movies to everything to Thor: Love and Thunder? Thom.
Oh, I was like, who are you asking?
In my head, I'm like, did I say Thom?
I mean, he's not. I'm fine with his change. There's some bits I miss, like like in the first Thor, like when he's in that diner and how he asks for a second coffee, another, and he just throws it. Like I miss those little things.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't complain if we got a little bit of that, but I understand he's not going to do that anymore because he's learned the customs of Earth and and I've always liked Thor, and I like it makes sense to me that him especially falling in love with the woman from Earth, it makes sense, and I do like that. Was always a little missing piece for me in everything Thor was we didn't really see what, like, really, if that much of him and Jane together. That was like probably, aside from gore, one of my favorite little sequences in Love and Thunder was seeing their relationship, like how they like live together. I liked that. I liked, we're seeing like, how did they like, because before this you're like, wait, they're not together anymore? Like,
all we got was that line from Ragnarok where like, that's it, they're over.
Yeah, that's it. Like, but like how
mutual
long?
dumping.
Like it felt like it seems like they were together for a while. Like they were like living together. They had like a relationship, but then they started doing their own thing. I liked
Halloween parties.
Yeah, the Halloween parties.
I liked. Dog.
Yeah, I liked that. So, and I feel like that just added more to like, this is why Thor acts this way now instead of the way he did like in the first two.
Right.
So, which by the way. Just to throw this in there, I never, and having that my girlfriend and I watched pretty much like everything phase 1 to the end of phase 3, we like did like a she pretty much crammed, as you put it, like all of Marvel to be able to watch, Love and Thunder. I don't get the hatred for the Dark World. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know where that comes from.
I think it's the weakest of the Thor films, but
Yeah, the Thor films, but
they what they were trying to do was they were trying to go for more of a fantasy film,
yeah.
and I guess it just didn't hit well with people.
I think it's because the villain is so unforgettable. It's so not forgettable. It's forgettable.
Yeah, that's
I can't
true.
remember his name. I don't remember exactly
Yeah,
what his
Malcolm,
motivation
yes.
was. And I think those are the movies where, like, Iron Man 2 is another one. I kind of remember, the Mickey Rourke wanting his bird, and then Hammer and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, eh. You know what I mean?
Well, early MCU, I think we all kind of felt the same way about the majority of the villains. Or like, you don't really remember much of him. I mean, we remember Red Skull because you don't really forget him,
Right.
Yeah.
mostly because of the way he looked and the fact that he was pretty much a Nazi.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I know that almost everyone was on the same page, but everyone just talked about the Dark World like it's like the worst movie ever made, and I'm like, huh? Like, I enjoyed it. Yeah, the villain's kind of forgettable, but
I mean, like, if I had to rank the Marvel movie, it's on the bottom
yeah, it is.
to me.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it.
I think like that and Eternals.
Yeah.
And I still like the Eternals.
Yeah, we just I know
It's
the Eternals would have been better as a series, like
something,
like Moon
yeah.
Knight, like a
And I think
part.
the thing about Dark World is that, like, the end felt like there's a big battle on a big blue screen. And like they didn't really paint anything on the blue screen. It's just like purple,
Yeah.
and like flat land, maybe something, but like it wasn't like, I don't know. There wasn't anything like, okay, you could have put them on Tatooine, you could have put them on whatever, and it didn't feel like it mattered where they were.
Right.
But it was visually boring. And like you made this fight, and it was like in contrast with Thor: Love and Thunder, where they're on this like black and white, like no
tiny
color planet, but it was shot in a way that it was dynamic looking,
yeah,
and interesting.
Mhm.
it was really cool looking. I liked that. I will say, like, one of my bigger favorite things about Taika Waititi's Thors is how just visually stunning they can be. Like, I liked that when you go to Thor's like Little Moon, like everything's in black and white for the most part. With a couple of like his eye, I think his eyes still were his orange color from what I remember. Like, I liked that. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just to long-winded answer your question. Finally, I like Thor's journey. He's not among my favorite of all the MCU characters, but I really like him. And I especially like, I think as far as like little things, I have a special connection with Stormbreaker, mostly because it's a mixture of Thor and Groot, which I appreciate. So, but I like his growth and change, because I feel like it'd be weird. It'd be weird if we have the same Thor as we had in the beginning. So, yeah.
Right.
Like my favorite line from Thor in all these movies has been, "So you take the world I love as recompense for your imagined slights." I wish he would talk like that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Jane and her journey. This is where, for me, it becomes a little more personal for me. Well, before I go into mine, because I'm going to probably cry. What do you guys think about her?
Yeah.
Go,
I
go ahead, Al. Go ahead, Lauren.
thought that she. Oh, sorry. I thought that they did a very faithful job to the comic books in this story, and I think that they were able to link up where we last saw her and this story and what happened between um, Dark World and Ragnarok, because they had a relationship. So I thought that that was really cool the way that they did that. But yeah, I know how you feel, and it's hard. But I would actually be curious to see how you felt having had somebody so close to you um, pass.
Right. Um, I mean, like I knew
Are
going
we frozen?
in,
Oh,
I,
sorry.
I knew going in that this was what her journey was,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's the fact that she had the cancer. And my question before going into is like, how are they going to resolve this, right? Like, are they going to have her succumb to cancer? And obviously at the end she does, and then she passes into Valhalla, which was cool. It was for me. That's why it
Yeah.
affected me a little bit, because it's not only that my mom died.
Yeah.
It's 2 years ago tomorrow.
Oh my God.
It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Yeah. Um,
So I liked her journey, because she didn't stop helping. That was her goal. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was my mom. My mom
Your
was a
mom was
nurse.
great.
She would always put others before her. So like even though
Yeah.
Jane could be a little bit, some, like, she's a little bit more goofy than she was before. Again, she's dealing with two different things, right? She's dealing with the fact that she's dying, and she's dealing with the fact that
Mm-hmm.
the love of her life is coming back, and she doesn't know how to. They both don't know how to feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I see her as almost overcompensating with the humor to deal with it, which is, again, something I do
Yes.
a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
But so because of that, um, Mighty Thor is not one of my favorite characters in the MCU.
Yeah. She's an incredible character, and you know, I think that I definitely understand. Your mom was my favorite aunt, so I miss her a lot too.
Uh, Not to bring it down, but
No, no, no.
Yeah.
I. It pains me to say that this is something I'm now relating to, because my mom is going through the same thing right now, and has been for the past year and a half. At first, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but now having my own personal experiences with it with my mom, I'm starting to even more understand Jane's personality changes when she is Mighty Thor,
Mm-hmm.
because her human form is going through what it's going through, but
Yeah.
all of a sudden she has this power and she's invigorated. So her personality being that way makes more sense to me now, because my mom and I do the same thing. She would give me updates on her status, and she will kind of act a similar way out of nowhere. She'll just throw in these jokes and these to kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
So leaving the movie, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but more and more it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I have my issue. My mom and I, like any parent and their child, there's usually some degree of issues, but and this is an understatement, I know, and I know Rich feels the same way about. I know you feel the same way about your mom. Is that to say that our moms are tough as nails would be one hell of an understatement. And to me, her journey, especially the ending, the I know I'm skipping ahead, the post-credit scene, that we know that going to Valhalla is just a warrior type of thing, but that is an afterlife that Jane more than deserved.
Yeah.
And something that I feel both our moms, if we're talking in terms of different kinds of afterlives, that
Yeah.
they have their seat there. And now I'm trying not to cry. So
No.
I
mean, it's especially in the MCU, there's a lot of, like, her mom died of cancer, Peter's mom died of cancer. Paper Show's another one, but, like, I think that's what drove it home and made it feel personal. Right? I mean, so I think I'm happy where Jane ended up.
Yeah.
It's another one of those things where, and I get it. Maybe she didn't want to, like, Natalie Portman didn't want to do some of the other things, but she came back for this. I'm glad she did, and her story gets to be told.
Yeah.
But speaking of the ending, so the whole eternity plot, like, it was kind of like expositioned in really quickly. But like, eternity is, I don't know. You have a good way to explain what eternity is, LJ?
Eternity is a being that is older than time, older than the Celestials and all the gods. There are certain beings like Eternity, and I think their twin is Destiny. And there are other ones that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but they are all, like, older than old. And they all represent some kind of aspect of the universe. So this character represents all of eternity. And I thought that she looked amazing in this movie, like exactly out of the comic book. And it's amazing how, when we got Galactus in the Fantastic Four movies, the original Fantastic Four movies, they made him into a gas cloud, because I think that they didn't think that people could understand a giant, man in space. And in this, they have this being that was just made out of the universe, and I thought that it was really cool.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it. I think Tom and I both had the same kind of reaction to it. Is that, like, I think we both, like, I think Tom said to me, he's like, "Does that remind you of Galactus?" And I looked at the shape, I'm like, kind of does, but I'm like, I don't think that's what they're going for. But then, seeing some of the things, looking up, it does look like Eternity from the comic books. Like that
Yeah.
the shape of the head and the whatever things that make it look like kind of like Galactus, but like the whole
It's very Jack Kirby. Very Jack Kirby.
basically the whole like cosmos thing, body thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this like? So the fact that Gore doesn't do the whole let's kill all the gods and just wishes for his daughter to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does this mean? Like, so basically at the end, this is, and I don't know why I didn't see it, but like Love and Thunder literally is the kid and Thor.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think this means for Thor? But like what does she? What's her role in the future?
That's a good question because I don't know of her character in the comics. Maybe they are trying to create a character that will be part of the Young Avengers that is more like, that can represent Thor.
Yeah, there was. If you ever watched the Young, I can't remember if it was called Young Avenger, but there's a cartoon.
Yeah,
movie.
I know what you're talking about.
There was a Thor kid.
Yeah, and she was actually the daughter of Thor.
Okay,
In
so I
that.
wonder if she's an amalgamation of different aspects of
I'm sure that they.
different things. But
I-
yeah, I was like my basic thing is like, are we going to see her again?
Right. I think we will. I mean, I think she's going to fit into this Young Avengers equation.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we do get that, and I hope that she's always going to have Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
It's amazing that they gave her the biggest weapon.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder just how what her, because do you think she is the same person like Gore's daughter, or is this a version of the daughter rebirthed somehow by Eternity? Like, is it exactly her, or is it her with whatever Huju that Eternity bestowed on her upon giving her life again?
I think it's the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not just her. I think there is a bit of eternity in this child.
Oh, that's right. She did have that purple laser beam coming from her.
Yeah.
eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think she had that ability before.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So the ending for me, like, again with the whole like it wasn't like this megalomaniac villain who just wants death and destruction. Again, there's a little bit of humanity in it. I liked, and I think again, like Jane helped it along is let him realize that this is not the way to do it, but you can bring back your daughter. And even though he said, well, she'll be alone, and Jane reassures him that she's not, because Thor will take care of her. I like that the ending didn't result in a fight, because even Thor doesn't fight. Like, Thor is like, I would rather be with Jane than fight you on this last bit, because if this will be the end, I'd rather have it be with someone I love, right? And so I was not expecting that ending, and I'm pleasantly surprised at that. I'm delighted by it. How did you guys feel about that ending?
I mean, I liked it. It just basically showed that Thor. The whole thing was about how Thor needed to find love, and the whole thing is that really Jane Foster is kind of she's not. Yes, they were in love with each other and he loves her.
Yeah.
But I think having this love was kind of he truly found somebody that he could love. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, like like even like say Jane lived and they got back together, would those same issues that they went through happen again,
Mm-hmm.
or much more slowly? And it's a different kind of thing where I think their story is told, but like and Thor, if you think about it, is one of the most tragic characters in the MCU. Right, he's lost
Mm-hmm.
everybody, including the Warriors 3. Thanks, Taika.
Yeah.
And and they give him essentially a child to care for, and now he's responsible for her. I think it's a good, like, if they said this was the last Thor movie, I think I'd be happy. Just be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Thor's gonna be dad bod Thor from now on.
Right.
Right. But as the end credits say, like, Thor will return. But I would have been happy if this was his end,
Mm.
and he just lived life, and we saw Love, or whatever her name was going to be,
Yeah.
show up later. Any thoughts on it, Tom?
I was happy with the ending. Yeah, I do like that. I mean, yeah, there was a fight kind of, but like the ending, like I like that it was just this little moment where Gore changes his mind at the end and just asks for his daughter back. And Thor had his final moments with Jane.
Yeah.
I did like that because it's not only is it different, it fits those, like, pretty much all those characters really well. Instead of having this grand epic battle where a bunch of noise happens, we have this quiet little moment.
And
And
it didn't turn orange.
it didn't turn orange where you're confused and you're like, wait, what happened in the movie I was watching? Yeah. No, I liked that, but I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but it's relevant. And this is a question my girlfriend had, and I have this similar question, which is what, like, so Gore had because he got through and he reached eternity. He was able to make this one wish with eternity,
Mm-hmm.
but so Thor wasn't able to make a wish, and if
because when they're talking about it, he only grants a wish to the first person
that walks through that door. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
That
clarification,
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, he was there, so
yeah, it's a weird
okay,
comic books.
yeah, okay.
And Kat has joined us in the audience. Hi, Kat.
hello.
How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Slowly wrapping up.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, we're in the middle of spoilers.
Yeah. Thanks for coming by, but yeah, we're still in spoiler
Yeah,
territory,
talking about the ending.
especially this next part.
Haven't seen it yet.
Thanks for joining us.
So I'm gonna bring up something very, very spoilery in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Post-credit scene.
Yeah.
I got excited, and this is why I got excited, because I know, Loren, this is also one of your favorite characters.
Yes.
And the appearance of Hercules. Now,
yes.
Thor mentioned him earlier, but it was, when he's like, and Ra's there, and when he's listening to a bunch of gods, and Hercules was in there, I'm like, that's cool. I was super like, I can't believe they kept this a secret. Like, there's any rumor about it.
Yes.
Hercules shows up because Zeus is still alive, and is like, when do we become jokes? And like, let's, they'll respect us again once they see Thor, Odin's son, fall. And then they cut to Zeus's kid, Hercules, who looks like Hercules from the comic. And that moment I saw him, like, oh my god, Lauren's gonna go crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, you
And
got a
I
pretty big
did.
reaction in the theater when
I,
we saw him.
I literally said, yes, yes, yes. Like I screamed it out loud in the theater. Because I even tweeted, I said, when are we getting the Lion of Olympus in the MCU? And somebody fairly high up, like, or something, I can't remember, but they retweeted me or something. I can't remember,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah, I was like, oh, ooh.
Ooh.
So anyway, yes, I love seeing Hercules in this. I I didn't think that it was going to happen, but when Zeus came back at the end, I'm like, oh my
Oh,
god, it's going to
you start
happen, it's
feeling
going to
it.
happen.
Like I knew he was gonna be like, let's go like get revenge on Thor. I just didn't know
Yes,
what weapon he would use. And
right.
I was super surprised. Even though I probably shouldn't be, because like, Hasbro, I don't know if it's just kismet or like they know something, but like they released most recently a Hercules figure,
Oh
right?
wow,
Right?
yeah.
So I'm like, are they gonna do like
Oh
Galactus?
yeah, I got that figure.
Oh, yeah, I told you about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, in like the Green Minotaur, and there's some other things where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be some kind of connection or something. But
Right.
I didn't think we would see Hercules at all,
Yeah.
even though like it should have made sense because Zeus was in the trailer. And so
Yes.
that means that Hercules exists.
Mhm.
But
Exactly.
you know that character. Like what I know of Hercules is the mythology, but also Disney's Hercules. But in the comic books, like what's his deal and what's his relationship with Thor in the comic books?
Well, he the two of them often spar with each other because they're from two different mythologies,
Right.
but they are also heroes in their own right. I mean, Hercules was a member of
The Avengers, right?
the Avengers. He was a
Hmm.
member of the Champions back in the 70s.
Uh,
And he always had that, with the headdress and bare chested with and I was like, I can't believe they actually have this kind of Hercules in the film with the mace, even.
yes, the
Yeah,
mace.
the mace. I was like, wow. I mean, literally, I was screaming, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I told Tom after, I'm like, oh my god, you like Loren must be going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been waiting for this character to come, and I, the one thing that I love about this movie, like I know, yes, the God sequence could be a little bit silly. I
Yeah,
loved it still, but it just showed that there are gods. There are
yes,
gods. It's not just the Asgardians, but there
yeah,
are gods.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm assuming this means Thor 5 or whatever it is.
yeah,
And again, I hope we'll see both Thor and Love. I don't know if they're gonna name her something different,
yeah. I'm
but
sure it will.
I can see like I can see this being a better Batman v Superman.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's them, like Hercules wants to like kill Thor, but then they realize that that's not who they are. Like Hercules is a hero, right?
Yes.
And then something will happen, and they'll have to end up teaming together, and it won't be because their moms are named Martha.
Yeah. Exactly.
It'll make
Yes.
sense, and then we'll get the the Thor Hercules bromance thing going, and
Yes.
then they then they later on they'll team up with Hulk and the Thing, and
Hmm.
they'll be playing poker together. It'll be awesome.
That'd be really cool,
I
actually.
know. Can't wait. Oh my gosh.
So I did ask, this is something we started doing recently, is just asking for people to ask questions of us about whatever it is we're talking about.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where I'm trying to figure out like when's a good time to ask, because it is opening weekend, and I know not a lot of people would be able to see it opening weekend, but
Right.
we did get a couple of questions in. We already answered the why
The
couldn't
first
Thor
one.
use,
Yeah.
but who or what was the voice that led Gore to the Oasis?
Yeah.
I assumed it was that god that showed up in the beginning. That's what I thought.
That's what I thought as well, but maybe it isn't.
I thought it was a
What did you
sword.
think?
I think it's a sword.
Oh.
I think it's a sword.
Huh.
Oh, that would make
come here.
sense.
Come here so you can help me kill this god.
Yeah, because the
I
guy
failed.
was totally
already dead.
the one god was totally confused as to why he was there.
Yeah.
And
And that's
Oh.
why
that is
I
good.
think we needed to see a little bit more from Gore, because I think we got flashes of imagery from that sword where that led to eternity. And so I think it's one of those things that the sword again has come sentience and basically corrupted Gore into this mission of killing the gods. Because if this sword is a god killing sword, kind of like Thanos. Like Thanos is like, look, I can go from planet to planet and kill half the people, but it'd be so much easier if I could just snap my fingers and do it.
Right.
Like this sword is like, my purpose is to kill the gods, but if I can get someone to just make that wish,
right,
it'll make my life a whole lot easier. So I think it's the sword.
I don't know if Pete and Nally are still here. This was one of their questions. I was curious to know what they thought, who it was, and if they thought it was a sword as well. Because now it makes sense. It actually makes sense, because I was like, well, why did he seem so confused that he was there? Like, I thought at first he was calling him there to, like, as the last reward of being the last person standing on that planet. And it says, when we watch it the second time, we saw that it was someone calling for him to kill the gods.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, because I wasn't really paying attention to what the words were saying, but that makes sense.
Yeah, like I know when it comes out on Disney Plus, I like watching things with closed captioning on, because then I can see what people are saying, and then it's like, oh, that's what it's saying. So I'm pretty sure we'll hear the kind of voiceover during that section, because they always do it in those like whispery voices, like But yeah, I kind of got that it was a sword that was calling to him. Another question was, so what the dog just asked was, why would Gore bring kids to the Eternity Portal since he had the axe and didn't need the kids any longer?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Hmm?
Do you have any thoughts on that question?
That is a good question. I didn't even think about it. I don't think there was any big reason outside of, they needed to have a scene at the end where all these people were fighting against the
comic book.
Because movie.
Logic. Because movie. That's honestly my honest answer to that question, is that I just think that it was just a convenient thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it could be, he used them obviously to lure Thor to wherever he was.
Yes.
I would say like moving them would be the backup plan. Like if he couldn't get the axe, then
he could just kill all the children.
then he would still need use the children as leverage to, like, say the kids were there and Thor managed to escape with the kids and the axe, then he has then his plan, he'll think of another plan. But if the kids weren't there, that means even if Thor got away, Thor still has the kids, so he can still lure him wherever he wants.
Yeah.
I would say that's the only, like you can look at it that way and be like, okay. But comic books, like, how does everyone know where the Eternity keyhole is and can get there really quickly via magic? Because comic books.
Yes, because comic books. This is interesting. So Pete and Allie said that they saw flashes of both being at Eternity and telling him to call the Bifrost at that beginning scene. I totally did not see any of that. I need to see the movie again.
Yeah, that's why I wish it was a little bit clearer, because like I think a lot of that stuff was there. Is just that it's very easy to miss, and if we got a little bit more from Gore about that whole mission, then it could have helped explain it to the audiences better.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Insurance, they would be able to still get what he wants. The English teacher buys that explanation.
It makes kind of sense. Like if I had a plan, I want to put all my all my cards on the table quite yet. If I was unsure if I was going to win.
Yes.
So that's probably it.
Yeah.
That's it for our questions. Unless anyone has anything else.
Yeah.
From the
Let us know.
From the 4 people watching.
I have. Well, I sent you guys an image from a tweet.
Of the
Infinity
cones.
That's my question. When are we getting that at Adventures Campus?
I would take replacing one of the shawarma cards with that.
Yeah,
I know that would. Yeah, they could totally do. Yeah, they could totally do the one near closer to the Guardians, being
yeah. Why not?
Infinity Cones.
Like
that would be funny.
That could be that we discuss, in our, what would we add or change in the parks? Like, let's just the remainder of Hollywoodland. Just put Infinity Cones there.
Infinity Cones, Rogers the Musical, and Avengers Con. That's all.
Yes, that's all we need. That's all we need from there.
Yeah. So let's kind of reach the end here, but like, you have any last thoughts about Thor: Love and Thunder?
I mean, I think we went over it. I mean, just my general thing is that, like, my opinion has not changed about it. I think that it was a great movie. So much fun. I actually learned a little bit more from Pete and Allie about that whole scene with where he goes into that oasis, and that makes it even more interesting. So I liked it. I mean, I was glad, moreover than anything else, that they managed to take such a long story of Jane Foster's Thor and the Gore the God Butcher and put it into this 2-hour movie and not feel like it was super rushed.
Yeah.
They took the essence of everything and just put it in there.
Yeah. Tom?
I mean, I have changed my mind on a few things that I wasn't crazy about to begin with, thanks to this discussion. I think so far, having only seen it once, I still prefer Ragnarok, but I won't be surprised when it comes out, on Disney Plus, in rewatching it, that I will end up liking it more. Because again, it's not the first time this has happened with movies where I walk out of theater, I'm like, I don't know if I liked that, and then something gets me to rewatch it. I'm like, oh wow, it's like one of my favorites, The Last
That
Jedi.
always happens to me.
The Last Jedi, like the exact same thing happened. I left the theater, like
Mm-hmm.
I watched a movie and I don't know if I liked it, and then it came
Yeah.
out on digital and I watched it like 5 times in a week, and I ended up liking it way more each time. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing. I mean, I it takes a lot for me to not like a movie. So again, I wasn't bored. There were a lot of things I liked, a lot of things I wasn't crazy about, but I'm pretty certain that with rewatches, I'll probably end up changing my mind. So
Mm-hmm.
more gore. That's it. So if we get like a director's cut, like like I know we're getting a more fun stuff version of No Way Home of Spider-Man.
Oh,
If we
yeah.
get
That's right.
which is pretty much like a director's cut, like we're just getting more.
I'm sure there'll
Like,
be like deleted scenes at the most part.
yeah, like if we get like more gore, more stuff, like an extra like 10 minutes worth of stuff, sure. I'm not gonna complain about that.
Yeah.
I still like Ragnarok better. And we'll see how I feel after a rewatch of it. But like also in the discussion talking about some of the things, like I do like it slightly more than I did.
Yeah,
Going
thinking
into
about it
this,
more.
right? But one of the things I do, and I'll leave it with this because from the Star Wars guy, Taika is going to probably do the next Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And what even though like a lot of people are like, his humor doesn't belong in Star Wars and whatever. I'm like, we've had
But
years.
why not?
We've had years of the same kinds of movies and stuff.
Exactly.
I like that the MCU is so different. Like every movie is its own subgenre within the comic book superhero genre. Why can't we have that with Star Wars? Like if he tells a good story, that's the thing he does. He can take like a serious, like this is a story, but inject what he does. I'm looking forward to it because like I think that's what Star Wars needs is variety.
Yeah,
you don't have to like everything, but at least it'll be different. And for some people it'll be great. Some people they'll hate it, and that's okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with MCU.
The world will keep going on.
We'll get something eventually that you like.
And the rest of the world will go on, and there'll be this group of quote unquote fans that'll make 80 videos on their YouTube channel reminding you that Kathleen Kennedy is the worst person in the world.
Yes, Kathleen Kennedy.
and in the same breath say they don't care while making 80 videos on the same thing over and over and over again.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's it for us.
All right. Well, thank you, Richard.
Yeah, Ms. Marvel's season finale is tomorrow, so we'll probably do some
catch up.
Oh my god!
Andor is going to be next month, so that's a whole thing. But
She-Hulk comes in.
What's She-Hulk?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So
is that
soon?
I can't wait for She-Hulk.
Yeah. So, you want to take us out, Loren?
Yeah. So anyway, if you haven't already, we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications, and do like this post. It really does help us out. And visit us on all of our socials, especially Instagram. I tend to be on Instagram more, Castle Escapes and Clones. And with that, now let's say thanks, guys. It's always great to hear you guys talk through this stuff. You are quite welcome.
You are welcome.
And thanks for the questions.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is it. And we will see you later. Bye.
Yep. Catch you on the flip side.
Ta.